I wanted to go over a few things in Lumion. I've got it running here with Revit in the live sync. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about setting up your view and getting things ready. So if live sync works, great. If not, then you might have to export as a separate file. But if your live sync works, I'm just going to sort of come in here into Lumion. And first thing I'm going to do is kind of set up the view the way that I want it in Lumion and then save it in Lumion so I have it to come back to. So I think I want to look at it from kind of this other viewpoint and maybe up from above and maybe a little bit more from this way, right? Just kind of getting it into sort of a view that I think I want. And then I'll just go to the landscape and pick my landscape and change it to white, right? Then maybe if I'm pretty sure if I tweak it a little more, maybe I go to my photo here and adjust it in my photo and get it a little bit more the way I want it in my photo. And I just go ahead and store that camera. So I have one, I don't know, seems like I want to look at it from a little bit more this way. And then maybe a little bit higher. But again, you could make another camera. And also I'm kind of getting the sky out of there. But we can adjust that later. So I'll kind of set that up and then I'll store that camera so I have it, right? And then I can go back to my build and sort of set a few things up. So I'm also going to go to the weather here. I'll just get rid of the clouds. And I'm going to adjust where the sun's coming from. So I'll bring it kind of closer in this way and maybe a little lower. So just kind of tweaking things where you think you might want them. And then the next thing, let's go in here and sort of play around with the materials. So if I come into my materials and I picked this board form concrete here, so I wish it would let me move it around, but it's a little bit too much in my face. And so if you go to the board form concrete and you pick it and you go to settings, you can actually sort of pull the texture back some and it will start to adjust that, right? You can also obviously change the color, right? And it will change the color if you wanted it to be a little red, right? But I'll pull that texture back a little bit. There are a few things you can't do, like the UV coordinates are not available to you, but the other properties are. So if you wanted to go in and adjust those, so maybe I want it darker. Ooh, that's really dark. Let's put it back to white, right? And adjust that a little bit. If you don't want, if you decide you want a whole nother material, then you can come in and go to the materials and I'll pick this stone and I'll just go to, looks like concrete here. Let's scroll down and maybe I got one that has some, I'll pick this one. It looks like it's got concrete plates. So when you use one from Lumion, you can actually go in and if you double click on, well, you can go to the settings when it's selected and you have the same sort of thing. So you can sort of, this one's really dark. So if I come in and change that value to white and then sort of change that, pull that texture way back, it'll pull that texture way back. So I would suggest doing that. You also get things like UV coordinates. So if I, change the size of this, right, it'll start to change the size of those blocks, right? So they get bigger. And you can do, twist them and all sorts of things. But I would keep it pretty simple. If you need to select something like, I'm going to pick this glass and go to materials and I'll, let's go to surface glass, and go to materials. You can go ahead and set a glass material to that. So if I go to materials and let's go back. So just going to new, and you can actually come in and pick different things. So if I go to glass advanced, it now puts glass advanced on that glass. The other thing I can do is that if I want to come in and I'm trying to get to this floor here, so I have to go past the glass to get to the floor because it's covering the floor. So I have to go in and sort of pick this high strength concrete. And then if I go to materials, I don't know, Maybe I'll put polished concrete on it, right? That one's pretty nice. And so I'll just use that. So I would, and these little dots will go away when you render. I think they're just a artifact from the transparency of the glass. But you can sort of come in and set things up the way that you want, right? So I would suggest doing that. I'll hit check here. Um, and just get to a point where when you go to the photo, right, you've saved the photo now, and you can come back and render it from here. So we'll do rendering after this.